Okay, guys. Today, what I'm working on is a checkout screen for a Flutter app. Uh, right now, I've got it's a Flutter web app. Right now, I've got a shopping cart and a rudimentary like order summary and ability to increase and decrease the quantity of items that you'd like to buy. Right now, we're just working with one item, and we have a checkout now button. But the next thing that we want to make is a checkout screen, and right now I'm really just following the kind of the inspiration here is this Sonos checkout screen. I don't own any Sonos products, but I was just looking at their website and I saw that they had a generic kind of checkout screen, and so that's what we're going to build. So I've got Android Studio open over here, and I've just started basically a uh, a simple widget here with its associated state, and just for now we're going to return a container, but I'm starting to build out this name piece. So we'll get a get name widget. Uh, And you know what? Get name widget. So at the top, we're going to have it's going to be a column. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to group them like this. And you can make this all one form fill, but for this first part, we're just going to do it a very simple way. So we're going to have a full name up here. It's going to be a column with 2 rows. We're not going to have company. Actually, we will have company. We'll have a company, that's optional. So we'll do this. And so let's get started. So what we're going to have is a column, and then we're going to have inside that column 3 rows. But the first row is just going to say full name, and so we're not going to make that an official row. And then we'll have a row here with 2 text input elements, and then we'll have a company. So I've got my text input right here, and next let's do a row. And we're inside our row, we're going to have some children, and the first one, and we're not going to focus on input right now, we're just going to do first name as a placeholder to see if this lays out how we think it would lay out. And then we're going to do another text element, and it's going to be last name. And then below that is going to be another text called company, which is going to be optional. And you can see that we've got, we need a semicolon here to make things happy. This is upset for some reason. Let's see here, row, children. Okay, so this needs a close paren, and then if this is the end of that, then we can put our semicolon here. So what we need to do here is launch this from what I showed you over here, which is our, if we go over to our test app right now, our shopping cart screen. So when we hit the checkout now button, we want to launch our basically our checkout screen. So what we're going to do there is we're going to copy some code from another piece of the project, and that code is basically just generic code to launch a page. So if I search order here, I'm going to find the launcher to, so right here is our important piece. So here's our code when we want to launch the actual shopping cart view. So from our shopping cart view, when we have the checkout now button, we need to go to our on pressed here, and we need to launch our checkout view. So it's going to say I can't find it. We can import that, and let's press Control S, and the web page will reload. And what we can do here is we can do an order unit. And now if we hit checkout now, we should see Okay, we see a blank screen, and that's because we are still returning a container. So what we need to do is we need to return the get name widget. And we'll go back over to our order unit screen, and we'll do a checkout now. And that's a little bit interesting, that it's displayed like that. What we should do here is we should borrow from our shopping cart view. We need to get basically our scaffold. We don't have a scaffold in there yet. So let me grab from our shopping cart view the scaffold that we were using. And so here we go. We're gonna actually grab these first few pieces here, and we're gonna do this. And inside our body is actually gonna be get name widget. And then we'll do a semicolon here. Let's go back over to our order unit, check out now. So now it's a little bit like we thought it might be. Our full name, our first name, last name, and our company optional. It's all kind of spread out. If we want to get it all onto one side, we need to do the cross access. So we need to update the column field of our cross access alignment, and we need to do cross access alignment start. And now we should be able to see everything lined up on the start on the left. It's very scrunched up, and we need to also turn these placeholders into actual input fields. And before we do that, I just want to wrap this whole thing in a column, because we're obviously going to need to build some more stuff. So our get name widget is going to be actually inside a column. So let's actually have this return a widget. And we could actually have it return a column. And we can wrap this with a column. And that column we can wrap with some padding so it doesn't look completely scrunched up all the time. And what we need to do is this text field is going to be a title kind of field. So we can borrow again from our shopping cart, and we can set the style on that. So let's set the style on our name section. I'm going to refresh it. We'll go back over to our order unit and checkout. So now we've got a big full name, and now we need to add an input field. So let's do input field Flutter. We're going to search on DuckDuckGo and see what we have here. So the first two things are actually part of the Flutter official documentation. So it's actually going to be a text field. And then we can do an input decoration with an outline border. And so let's just borrow this piece right here. And let's just copy this word for word. And for our first name, and this is really hard to read, so let's reformat that. I don't know if that's any easier to read, but let's paste this text field in here. And let's put first name here. And we did, I think we'll be okay with just double quotes. Hopefully it won't get too upset. We need to make sure we've got a comma. And let's just refresh this right now and see what we get, because sometimes you don't want to get too far along before something blew up. Okay. You know, I think that these text form fields why did it get upset? Let's see here. Layout constraints, max width is less, cannot be okay, so this input decoration cannot have an unbounded width, and when we put it in a row, it essentially has an unbounded width. So I don't know why what they put theirs in. that didn't give it an unbounded width. If we wanted to it doesn't look like this has a max width field on this actual widget, so we might need to wrap it into some kind of constraint. Let's see if this form field provides any. I think another thing what we could do is let's see if this provides add a text form field with validation. How does this work? This is the same code. So they have my custom form and they have a form state in here. They have the same thing, a column with a text form field. We could remove the decoration and see if that just gets us along, and we don't need to obscure the text. So let's just temporarily remove the I don't know what it's going to be like if it doesn't have any input decoration, but let's temporarily remove that and see if we can at least get it to render correctly. No, we can't. So let's go down here. Similar situation. So what we can do is let me wrap with a container, and on that container let's do a width of 100 just to see if this will build correctly. Okay, so there we've got our first name, and we can go first name. Now what we probably will do is not hard code this to 100 in the actual implementation, but for the sake of this live tutorial we will. So now that we've got basically this working instance, let's copy this container code, and over here we're going to do last name, so we're going to add our last name, and we can remove this right here, and then we're also going to change this company optional field, text field, and we're going to make it 200, or why not? Let's make it 300. And we're going to add this text here instead of first name. It's going to say company optional, and then we can delete this widget here. So here we go. Let's log back in. Go to our checkout. Okay, so now we're getting something that's a little bit closer, excuse me, to what we want. I think another thing that we could have done here is we could have done cross-axis. I don't know if there's a cross-axis size or constraint for column. Let's look over here. There's main axis size, so there's not really a constraint that we can put immediately apparent immediately on the column. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bump this up to 150 and bump this up to 150 so it looks a little better. And for our full name, we're going to actually want to add some padding, and I really only want to bump that padding. I guess we can do all and see how this lays out. And they have some padding actually in between all their fields here. So let's look at ours and see how that looks, and then if that looks okay. That looks decent. I do think having some spacing between these sections would be good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some bottom padding to this row. And I don't really like the rounded borders. I think I prefer them kind of straight edge. So I wonder if there's a border radius. So I wonder if we can set border radius to null. So it looks like it can't be null. And the corner radii must be circular. So is there just a way we can do input border? Default input decorator. Let's leave it like this for now, and then we'll go back and we'll look at other input decorators. So let's add that bottom padding I mentioned earlier. So we're just going to do only, and we're going to do bottom, and we're going to add that 8.0 there, and refresh. And then let's add this shipping address while we're here. So the shipping section, as we can see, ooh, and here's a little state drop down. So the shipping address container looks very similar to the name and company section. So because of that, I'm just gonna quickly copy and paste this, and we're gonna call this get address widget, and we're gonna modify full name. Instead of full name, it's gonna say shipping address. And instead of first name and last name, we're really only going to have one field. So I'm going to remove this container, or this widget. Oh, yeah, I'm going to remove this widget, but I want to remove the whole thing. So I'm just going to remove this whole thing. And instead of first name, and I'm going to make this 300, so I want it to take up the same amount of width of the company field, and we're going to call this address line 1. So let's do that. Address line 1, and then over here, what we'll do is we'll start adding our city and our state and our zip code. And I'm not sure if we'll do the drop down during this, but let's at least start on adding the city. And these look like, this looks like, so if this is 300, this looks like about 180, and this is 80, and this is, let's say 20. So let's add the city. We're going to call this city. And we're actually going to wrap, instead of this being in a container, we're going to wrap this with we're going to remove this widget, and we're going to wrap this in a row. And then what we're going to do is we're going to duplicate this city field, and we're going to paste it, and we're going to put state. And I don't think we're going to do the drop down immediately right now, but we'll see. And then we're going to do zip code, and look at zip code. So before we get too far, and so we've got our name widget and our address widget, we need to add our address widget to the column of our primary screen. Before we get too far, let's run this, see what's going on here. And that's not good. So one thing that I can think of is when we put these things in this row, I had removed the container, so I think we need to add that back, and we need to do like a width of like what did I say, 180, and then this needs to be a width of we'll say 80. So that'll leave us about 40 left for our zip code. We'll see how that turns out. I think the other thing we could have done is we could have wrapped this whole column in a container, but this will give us some granularity in our how each field is laid out. So there we go. Zip code is obviously not big enough. State and either is not either. So I probably should have used some kind of percentage layout and set this to 50 and 50, and that way when I modify this to be, you know, zip code is unacceptable right there. So I really probably want to make this, and you can see it's much smaller than the amount of width that's given to the form over on the Sonos page. So we really probably want to make this actually, instead of 300 total width, this looks more like 500. We'll do that. What I'll probably do is I'll start off, and the other thing that I noticed is we probably want a container here to give us some space between these two widgets. And real quick, let's see what 500 looks like here. So let's take, let's make this guy 500, and this 250, and this 250. And that looks good. And now we've got, this is starting to come together here. And so what we can do over here is we can now expand our section down here. So we can make this a 500, and this will be, we'll make these make this 300, and then this can be 100 and 100. And this is just playing around with it a little bit here, nothing major. So that looks a little bit better, and then this is starting to come together and look very usable. The next thing we have here is we've got a mobile phone entry and an email entry, and then a shipping method. We won't necessarily have multiple shipping methods that we'll implement today, but what we will implement is, let's see if we can create this credit card form. So let's just do a quick search before we do everything on our own. Flutter credit card form. Let's see if anyone's, so credit card field, Flutter credit card form, Flutter. Building a credit card form using Flutter. So hopefully it's not gonna, where's the source code for this thing? Here we go, another YouTube video, imagine that. A YouTube video and a YouTube video. Whoa, there's no code reference there. So let's see if we got here, pages, checkout page, and it includes credit card. So I'm imagining there's a credit card form here, and there's a child, it's a flip card, credit card front, credit card back. Okay, so this is going to be a fancy kind of credit card entry form. This is looking similar to what we're making right now. It's a library. I don't really want to use a library just to get credit card field input. I do appreciate all the people that do create libraries. So what we're going to do is, just for the sake of time, is we're actually going to make our own credit card information. So we're gonna follow the same format, and we're gonna add a billing information section with this font, and then probably a smaller one that will have card information. So shipping information. So I probably should put shipping information up here if I wanted to have it mimic this same thing. But let's focus on the credit card information right now. So we're gonna add a credit card section. So just like we did the last one, I'm gonna copy this, and I'm gonna do, and this is gonna be called credit card widget. And instead of it saying shipping address, it's gonna say card information. And we really only need one row here. So anything that's not in this first row, okay, so this is going to be easy. This is going to be very similar to the other form. We're going to say card number, and this is going to be MMYY. going to say security code. So let's run this. The next, and see what this looks like. And then we'll probably take a break. And the next video, what we'll do is we'll hook this up to, we'll probably build out a Stripe integration. And then we'll connect the Stripe integration to this form. And we'll add some form validation. But let's build this, and I've got this credit card widget now, and so I feel good about that. Let's add it, and let's actually copy this again because we want some space in between these widgets. And let's save this and see how this guy turns out. So let's do this. And then what alright, so card information. We've got this extra field here that is address line 1. We do not need that, so let's just quickly remove this. I wonder if we can remove this whole widget. No, it's just gonna. So the quickest way then is to just nuke it like this. Alright. And then we can see our security code here is not rendering the best. The font is really large, and we don't need that much space, I don't think, for our credit card. So let's give us some space for the actual rendering of the security card text. So let's make this 150. And then we'll take 50 out of here, see if that'll render a little bit better. Okay, so that renders better. We've got this. Can we enter this okay? We can enter that okay. And then our card number, we've got this. So this is coming along. So what we probably want to do is put some space under each of these sections, these titles, so that we have a little bit of padding in between the title and our actual input forms. So what we can do now is actually, let me do a place your order button. Let's add that. And then once we get that, then we'll work on the service layer, which is we'll probably do some client-side validation just to make sure there is, there's at least a valid, the right number of digits for the credit card information. But then what we'll do is when we place your order, we'll talk to a service that we're making or that we're going to make, and it will validate that charge or that payment, and that's what we'll do next. But let's add this button here. So we're just gonna call button get place your order button order, and we'll call it widget. We probably don't need to, and it's gonna be a raise button, and so let's do a return raise button. It's gonna have a child. Child is gonna be of type text, and it's gonna say place your order. We need a semicolon here, and then if we want it to render correctly, we need to do an add press. And so we've got that. Let's just reformat quickly. And then what we need to do is let's add another spacer here. 16, and this is going to get place your order. Let's save this. And then let's go over here. It's in the center. So ideally, it would follow this same design. So I don't understand right now. Okay, I get it now. So really, this cross-axis alignment, we can wrap this in a column, or we could put the alignment at the top column, and then it would work for everything. Just to follow the other columns now, let's try this. Okay, and now it's upset because okay. Why is this not? Let's also, I wonder if we need to wrap this in a container. Width, let's make this thing 500. Okay, so it's big, it's the size we want it, but it's still not, for some reason, it's still not. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna remove this column widget here. And we're gonna place the, okay, so we're just gonna, so we don't have to deal with types, mismatch all there. We're gonna add this start up here for now. So let's see if this will fix us up. Save this. Okay, so there we go. This is kind of rendering very close. It's not as elegant looking at the as the Sonos checkout, but it is a step in the right direction. I feel comfortable with where we're at now. In an upcoming video, what I want to do is I want to show how we can add some validation to this form, or this checkout form. And then I want to show you how we can connect that to a Stripe payment service. So I appreciate you all watching, and I hope this is some value. I'll put the source code online, and it'll be in a GitHub repo. And once I have it up there, I'll put a link in the description. Please let me know if you have any questions or if there's anything you would like me to go over. Thank you for watching today, and I appreciate your time.